didn't at least get one game with one of the players proxying a tiny bit, but let's go ahead and get started. Let's introduce these players. They're going to be starting down here in the bottom right-hand side of the map at the top of the blue Protoss player. He is Skillous from Team Cascade.
I'm kind of feeling the old Nexus, but I'm definitely not feeling the old CC in the hatchery. Those are so ugly. Top left side of Death Aura, we're looking at the main base of the Polish Protoss with a modern Nexus representing Team Liquid. It is MaNa.
You know, Kev, it's funny you say that because I'm trying to remember who it was. It was either Zombie Grub, Maynard, or Pig. One of those three were saying that they actually feel the exact opposite. They're like, you know,
What?
I don't like. They're like, I think the Nexus is the worst looking of all the classic skins. I'm like,
No.
I think it's the best.
Yeah, it's by far and away the best. It's the only thing that's not atrocious, okay? That hatchery doesn't look like anything. It looks like a pancake that's been slapped down a couple of times. And that command center, I don't even know when it's a command center, an orbital, or a planetary fortress. It looks like, I don't know, a gold mine from Minecraft or something. I've never played that game, but I would assume that's how a gold mine would look. It's absolutely horrific. The Nexus on the other end, I'm kind of feeling the Nexus.
I think the one thing about the Nexus that does mess with my head a little bit is that it is a slightly smaller model than the traditional Nexus. Because like you have the little edges that protrude out. And that sometimes does make me like under or overestimate like what's going to be in range. And that specifically is a problem for me because I can't rush a lot.
Okay, I have not experienced that problem yet myself, but I guess I see where you're coming from indeed. Now we do have a couple of, or at least one pylon being proxied so far, but it does not seem that Skillous is actually gonna really go for it, unless he wants to do something with this probe on the top right side. I'm a bit confused. We do have Stalker openings on both sides. I personally am a bigger fan of the Stalker openings than I am of the Adept openings. I just feel that people got so good against Adepts, and they're so good in positioning their Stalkers in the early game that I find it hard to really get proper value out of Adept openings these days.
Yeah, I mean, really, you just end up getting the scouting information, and then it kind of feels like, well, cool, I killed like one worker, but I mean, even then, it's usually people just get the shield batteries up, you know, just to block everything out. We gotta start. You know what, Kev? I'm so glad you got hired for today specifically because I got a Stargate versus Stargate, and that almost always leads to some funky memes, depending on what they make first and how they react when they see that their opponent also went Stargate.
Well, MaNa definitely strikes me as an Oracle guy. I don't believe that MaNa would open Phoenix here. Skillous, on the other end, since his target is a little bit later, could potentially go for a Phoenix, and it definitely wouldn't be a bad call here. Or is he really gonna go wild and somehow open up with a Void Ray? Yesterday, we got a couple Void Ray memes, but we didn't get all the Void Ray memes that I signed up for. Now, it's going to be Oracle against Oracle, so this is actually just going to be a little bit wild, and Stalker positioning is incredibly important when these two builds go up against each other.
Well, the two Adepts from Skillous are making their way across the map, and again, when you find out that your opponent did go for Stargate as well, that is oftentimes an opportunity for you to position your units, potentially change up what you're going to follow up this build order with, and if you're going to get up like a Phoenix to just hard shut down multiple Oracles that are coming out from, say, MaNa. So there's an opportunity for that, but for now, Skillous just adding on that Twilight Council, warping a couple of sentries.
Sorry, he missed the shield battery wall off, which I think is kind of funny. Well, the first Oracle is going to show up. There is a shield battery there that's going to keep the probe safe. But not a bad first Oracle here for MaNa, as he already has picked up 3 worker kills. But of course, we still have the combo, the wombo combo of the Adepts and the Oracle. You can get 2 kills here, Skillous, and yeah, I would absolutely just settle for those 2 kills. No real damage either. The Adepts have shaded into the main base as well. He just wants it all. He's going for the Adept. Kind of some misfire there, though.
Yeah, 5 workers. He ends up losing both the Adepts and also the Oracle is going to be sitting on very low hit points. I want to note also that MaNa did get up the second Oracle, so he can bypass that shield battery if he ends up finding opportunity where the Stalkers are out of position. So something to keep an eye out on for later.
Yeah, I do believe Skillous spotted that though, right? With his Oracle. I think it was still around.
The Oracle definitely got scouted because the 2 Adepts got killed by the Oracle.
Yep. So I feel like it was okay by Skillous, but he definitely misfired a little bit with the Adepts. There were 2 or even 3 probes that all lost half of their health. but not all of it. So that's a shame, and that always leaves you with a feeling like, I could have gotten more. This is where MaNa is going to try to even things up. He will sweep in, pick off 3 probes, and Skillous is like, well, you know what? It's going to make my life a lot easier if I just make a single Phoenix here. And I actually kind of like that. Now a Depth Shade in the natural as well, and a lot of workers start going down. This is going from bad to worse, but I gotta say the Oracle control there was a tiny bit lackluster as well. You can see both players making some errors so far, because that Phoenix should have obviously been already keeping track of the Oracles, but it was misrallied.
Yeah, I have a question, Kev. So we had a Guardian Shield pop there. Does a Guardian Shield make it so that Adepts don't 2-shot workers?
No. If the shots are lined up, that will still just work. But it does work a little bit against sentries, I think, especially if there's a battery in the mix as well, healing things. But I don't know. Most of the time, I feel like it doesn't change that much, but I think a probe will still just get one-shotted.
Okay, yeah, because I know it doesn't affect the Oracle since the Oracle does spell damage, but anyways, I thought that was kind of an interesting move, maybe with something cool, but a lot of workers definitely going to be going down there for Skillous, but still, for the most part, keeping pace with MaNa. It's 44 to 42. And now Skillous should, with this Phoenix, be able to shut down these Oracles. If he realizes those Oracles are there with a Phoenix, he can try and give chase and potentially push them back. But the Stalkers are making their way across the map over here for MaNa. So he's looking to get aggressive with the next set of units. It's Blink Stalkers versus Blink Stalkers. And gonna start with the pylon. We'll see how much further he decides to go.
They both made 1 Phoenix as well, so MaNa also invested in that safety Phoenix. I feel like normally there shouldn't be too much to really gain here, even though MaNa did kill a few more workers in the end. Well, Skillous is a little bit out of position. No! He gets evaded by the Oracle. That was brilliant by MaNa, but an absolute disaster for Skillous, who ends up losing quite a few units immediately. This was not even supposed to get that much done, I think, on MaNa's side, but that was really smart. Showing the Oracle, tagging the army, and then baiting out the Blink.
Yeah, I mean, trades 1 Stalker and a few hit points and shields for 3 Stalkers and a Sentry is going to be able to come in once again with the Oracle, still getting damage on that Phoenix. Is not doing its job. It's still up on the top right-hand side because Skillous is too busy dealing with these Stalkers on the left-hand side at the exact same time. Is going to be able to snag a Stalker finally, but loses another Stalker or 2 in exchange, loses 5 probes. MaNa has +1 weapons also finished up and is starting up +2 weapons. Not a massive lead over here in terms of that. But the third base is going to be a bit later here for MaNa as well. So despite all the damage that's happening, MaNa's going to be leading up an army supply. Skillous still does have a decent economy, though.
Yep, economically it's pretty even, but obviously MaNa did fire up +2 already as well, and that has been going on for quite some time. You know, Fair Dragon, I'm not someone who really likes to see people lose their job, but can we fire that Phoenix of Skillous, okay? That has been the most useless Phoenix I've ever seen. It has 1 job, and that is just get on top of 2 units that don't fight back, and it just hasn't done anything. It keeps losing the Oracles, hasn't been able to stay anywhere near, and even in that moment where there was some multi-prong aggression coming out of MaNa, that Phoenix was just chilling above the main, not doing anything useful. I'm over it. I want that Phoenix fired.
Well, Kev, not everyone can have a dedicated hotkey for their Phoenix, okay? Not everyone is making Phoenix as often as you do. The Stasis Trap is going to get triggered over here immediately, but the Stalker does spot out the army and sees the positioning. And remember, there is Blink, so Skillous should know about the potential for this army to blink into the main base. He's going to reposition a lot of his army toward the main base, but then realizes, well, there's a few sentries in that army. Don't want to get force fielded out. Even if I can blink down, that means you're not going to be using your blink defensively to try and get out of the way for damage. See a big blink forward over here to the third base. MaNa's going to be able to snipe out the shield battery, and a few of these Stalkers also goes for some force fields. Again, it's just going to try and zone Skillous out. Skillous does not want to blink into this army because he definitely has fewer Stalkers right now.
I actually would have liked to see him go for the blink, snipe the prism, and then just fight with the probes as well. Not saying that would have been the prettiest fight, but I think doing it like this means you just end up losing the game. He just simply doesn't have enough. The Oracles are going to show up as well. A couple of Zealots do get warped in as reinforcements, but it's just not going to be enough. 2 very similar builds. MaNa just executed at a higher level than Skillous, and will take the 1-0 lead.
GG, well played there by MaNa. And like you said, just a lot of execution, the movement of his Stalkers and being able to get aggressive on the map. And Kev, oh my God, like the Oracles just killed so many probes and it kept the economies even for the most part, for sure. But he just killed so many probes when there was that Phoenix investment. I'm totally with you. I feel like that if all of those probes hadn't died, Skillous maybe has a few more workers. He maybe has a few more units by the time that attack comes through. I don't know. I feel like it changes things.
No, absolutely. And like I said, those two builds were almost identical. It was a little bit different with Skillous investing in the adepts a little bit earlier than MaNa did, because he made it out of gateway, or out of the gateways as unit number 3 and 4, while MaNa did it out of like 6 and 7 or something like that. But other than that, these builds were very, very similar. And MaNa just simply played better. Skillous just seemed like he was having some issues keeping up with the pace that MaNa was pushing there. And it never really felt like he was in his comfort zone. Every single time he almost was like, all right, let's see where we're at. MaNa was throwing something at him again. And Skillous just couldn't find his rhythm in that game at all.
Okay, well, hopefully he can find his rhythm in game number 2. We're moving to Ice and Chrome, which is pretty standard, stock standard map in a lot of ways. So I'm hoping that, you know, PvP can definitely get a little bit strange. Of course, like there's the Phoenix versus Phoenix Wars if they both open Stargate. But I feel like even when there's just like a couple of oracles running around getting lots of damage done, I feel like it just complicates the game in a lot of ways. So I'm hoping for Skillous' sake that we don't get like another Stargate versus Stargate opening. Those games just feel like they can just get so messy a lot of the time.
Where are my Void Rays, Fear Dragon? That's what I'm wondering about.
Have you been seeing a lot of Void Rays outside of proxies in PvP?
Yeah, absolutely. Goblin and Max Specs both have just been sitting at home building Void Rays and have been pretty damn successful with it. And I know some of the other Protosses have been experimenting with it. Maybe somebody like King Cobra, who is part of this tournament as well. He qualified. He could maybe bust out some Void Ray play in the group stage. Anyways, we'll see. I hope for this man that he can get it together and turn things around, because his record against his opponent ain't pretty. Bottom left side, hailing from Russia, it is the Skillous.
And up at the top right-hand side of the map, we have the red Protoss player from Team Liquid sitting up 1-0. He is MaNa.
Ice and Chrome as our second map. Obviously a pretty big map, just like Death Aura was, but it doesn't mean that we are just going to see a nice macro game where both players sit back. Especially, I feel like Skillous does often like to be the aggressor, just like MaNa likes to be the aggressor. So it didn't surprise me too much to see them choose almost the same build in game 1, because I actually think that these two in general play quite a similar style. Just seems like MaNa is always getting the better of him.
Yeah. And it's again, like, I feel like it sort of showed in the War Chest Team League with a lot of MaNa's matches, but I think his PvP has actually been pretty on point lately. So I'm always looking forward to seeing what he's going to be busting out here. We got a pretty standard opening again, double gateway and stuff. So you were talking about like the double adept versus double stalker and how there's not many people who really like to open up with a double adept. Do you feel like it kind of worked out in that last game? Skillous was able to get in and snipe off a few probes there.
Yeah, but obviously MaNa did the same thing just a little bit later, but it's mostly when they go for adepts as the first 2 units out of the gateway. Like, that is a build that I'm not that big of a fan of, unless they do something that the Koreans have been doing for quite some time, where they go like 6 to 8 adepts. And I always just feel like this build shouldn't be that good, but every single time I see that build, it actually gets so much done. It gets so many worker kills. It forces the probes to be pulled for a long time. And MaNa is actually opening up with 2 adepts. So now I'm super curious to see if the follow-up is going to be Stalker Stalker, Stalker Sentry, or if he's going for 2 more adepts. Then we can actually see if I've been onto something, and if it will get a lot of damage, or if it won't get anything done.
Well, MaNa's going to go for that pylon block over the wall. So Skillous is walled into his base right now. Can't go to the low ground and establish that low ground pylon to try and get up a better setup for a natural expansion. Looks like Skillous tried to go for the same wall, but a pylon for MaNa is already finished down there on the low ground. We got a Stargate coming up over here for Skillous yet again. Still yet to see what the tech is going to be for MaNa.
Probably Robo though, right? Like if you open up with 6 to 8 adepts, if you don't make a Robo, I mean, what do you make then? You can't really go Stargate that late. Twilight Council is a possibility, but that would mean that you have incredibly late detection, and if you don't get into the main base, you don't even really know what you're going up against. So it is going to be 4 sentries, and then he's actually going into, 4 adepts into double sentry. I find this a really odd opening by MaNa, but we'll see what he can get done with it.
Do you feel like seeing both, with the probe coming in and seeing both of those adepts still at home, do you feel like that's kind of revealed that there's probably more Adepts on the way, or like more Adepts out right now? Because otherwise they'd be across the map, right?
I think that's pretty fair to say, because who would ever open double Adept to just keep 2 Adepts at home? Like, that doesn't really add up. So I definitely think you're onto something there.
Okay, we'll see how prepared Skillous is going to be for that. But Skillous, his first Oracle is about to pop soon. And remember, when you open up with just a lot of Adepts, you're not exactly going to have quite as many Stalkers to split up between your 2 mineral lines and get up those defenses. So it's the first couple of Adepts making their way forward over here for Skillous. Oh, he's going to be able to body... Oh, he misses the body block on one of the Adepts there. So ends up having to give chase into the main base. Does a lot of damage to one of the Adepts, though. And yeah, this is going to be a hard shutdown.
Yep, only ends up losing a single probe, MaNa that is, so that's obviously not that bad. Did Skillous identify now that he's playing against the Twilight? Yes, he was obviously right next to the Twilight, so that is obviously a big tell. And that should give these Oracles some potential. But I also think that Skillous is a little bit afraid to send his Oracles out, because don't forget, he opened up with 2 Adepts, he just lost those, and then he built 2 Oracles. If you would send those out as well, how much do you really have at home to deal with the Adepts of MaNa if they suddenly show up and your Oracles didn't spot them? So I understand that he's a little cautious with the Oracle movement so far.
Well, the Oracles are making their way across the map now, and if they had encountered those Adepts, that actually could have been a lot of dead Adepts right there. But Oracles, as they end up making their way across the map, we have a few more Stalkers being warped in now that MaNa has 2 Stalkers for each one of his bases to help defend, and a shield battery each base. He's gonna have a much easier time trying to make sure he doesn't take too much damage over here.
Yeah, Skillous is okay with just keeping MaNa at home for now, dropping a couple of Revelations on top of that army, and feeling confident enough that he can just go up to 3 bases at this point. That's also the power of the Oracle. It's not necessarily about like how many workers can you kill. Obviously, you want to be able to kill workers, that'd be sick. Did he still see those Adepts, by the way, while they're moving out? He did not, but his hallucinated Phoenix will spot them. And that is honestly a very big scout. Otherwise, those Adepts could have been bringing quite the pain. But I like that he's rushing out 3 bases. He's like, I know you're not going anywhere, because you are respecting my 2 Oracles. Nobody grabs all their units and runs to the other side of the map, and there are 2 Oracles out on the map. So I actually kind of like what Skillous is doing so far.
Yeah. And I like that you were actually mentioning with that move out and everything, just keeping an eye out and being respectful of the Oracles. But I actually like that MaNa did have a Hallucinating Phoenix just tagged on those Oracles. So at least during the time he was originally going to do that move out, he knew where the Oracles were. He knew what he had to be afraid of, and he knew that his Stalkers are still going to be at home to help defend. But Oracle's going to be sweeping in toward the 3rd base and scouting that out over there for MaNa. And again, just going to be trying to set up some defenses. Oh, Stalker's going to be able to snag a kill on one of the Oracles. Might set off a stasis trap. Oh my god, catches every single Stalker.
Which is pretty awesome, but I don't think Skillous could really capitalize on that. You don't want to grab your units right now, run to the other side of the map when you've been mostly building probes at home. We can see that Skillous is sitting on a 6-worker advantage. It's been a very passive game out of these 2, and that's kind of funny because I think that's a little uncharacteristic. Normally, these are 2 players that love to be out on the map. They love to be finding every little opening they can possibly find. But it makes sense from Skillous because he's the one who expanded a bit quicker, and has also been chrono boosting the workers a little bit more. And he's ahead in upgrades, not by a whole lot, but even just being 35 or 40 seconds ahead in one of your attack upgrades in PvP ain't all that bad. I think this game is looking quite alright for the Russian.
Yeah, definitely not too shabby. The only thing that he's kind of down in a little bit is that army supply. Pretty even Stalker counts, but MaNa does have 2 Immortals, a handful of Adepts, and a couple of those Sentries. He's going to be poking forward with a couple of these Stalkers, blinking up into the main base. Sniped off a probe over there. Is going to just go after purely probes. He's trying to take a bit of an economic advantage, but he's going to have to he's already going to use his blink. He's going to try and recall out. Misses one of the Stalkers, so 6 probes for a Stalker. I guess that's not too bad.
No, but also lost the Observer and obviously uses Recall. It's alright. It's obviously not going to be game ending one way or the other, but I wouldn't say that that was like the sickest run by of all time, where he's like, oh my goodness. What we do still have are those 4 Adepts. I have no idea how they're still out on the map. The Oracle is going to fly over the army of MaNa and does at least drop a Revelation, but now Skillous finds those Stalkers, blinks on top of them immediately. He has to be careful of those Immortals though, because the Big Daddy Immortals are about to show up. And I'm happy to see him dropping a couple of force fields, but Skillous is bleeding out a lot of units here. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, loses all the sentries as well, so not going to have that Guardian Shield available for any of these fights, whereas MaNa still got 2 full energy sentries here. Can even try and use a couple of force fields and make it awkward for Skillous. Even with Blink, you just kind of have a lot less surface area, and you really have to decide if you want to commit into 2 Immortals. It's not an easy choice.
Stasis! Oh, that is such a big
my
stasis. That makes Skillous his life so much easier. Now Skillous can wipe in a few more units. Blink forward. He wants to get the Prism. Does not get the Prism yet. Needs to get on top of the Immortals or the Prism though. But obviously this is not the worst fight, because half of the army of MaNa cannot participate in this battle. It's still close. So imagine without the stasis how one-sided this would have been. Now MaNa and Stalkers are free. There is still an Immortal fighting a couple of Stalkers on the right side. Fear Dragon, what a fight.
But there's no reinforcements coming in over here from MaNa. Does he need them? There's a few more Zealots that just got warped in. Remember, Charge did complete for both of these players as well. So it's pure Blink Stalker versus Blink Stalker and Charge lots. MaNa's reinforcements are walking across the map. As soon as they get here, there is going to be a big boost to the power over here from MaNa. But he is purely just relying on that Blink upgrade to try and snipe off these units one by one and build up a large enough army they can just end this. An Immortal's going to be coming out, though. That might actually be pretty helpful.
Yep, that one Archon is not that helpful. I really don't like Archons that much in these Stalker battles, and I really think that MaNa just has a few too many units. Even though a few Zealots, I mean, at least then the Archon can tank a little bit. Skillous needs time, but it seems like MaNa is just not going to give him that time. Blinks forward, gets the Archon immediately, and it obviously means that the Zealots of MaNa are going to be very problematic to deal with here. Skillous needs a miraculous hold. Pull the probes, mate. You need to do anything. Pull the probes, snipe the Prism. If you don't, you lose the game. I think he loses the game. Anyways, well, MaNa with some very just decisive attacks, getting the job done here in a very clean manner.
Absolutely. That's a 2-0.